more and more people are coming out and giving their opinion, revealing some inside info, and ultimately just speaking on this Florida State ACC fight and when the Seminoles are going to get out of the conference. We continue to talk about this because, one, it's the offseason. Two, you guys love it. And three, it's probably the most important thing that Florida State will undertake for the next decade. Now, there's something I want you guys to see and hear, but then after we talk about that, I think there's something within all of this that a lot of people are missing. And I know we keep going back to the well on this, and so many of you comment that you cannot stand this guy or you hate when I play his videos, and I get it. You don't have to like him, but you don't have to like everyone to listen to what they have to say. And this is good news for FSU fans at the end of the day. So don't yell at me too bad in the comments, but watch this quick video, and then we'll talk about it after.
There is some stuff that's about to go down with Florida State and the ACC. I'm going to be very guarded tonight with how I talk about this. We will not burn sources on this show. Essentially, you've got the ACC and FSU fighting each other legally right now. I'm going to be very careful with this. I will tell you this. I think we're in GPS protocol at this point in regards to FSU and the ACC. And basically that is, there may be several different routes this could take, but the end result's going to be the same. FSU is not going to be in the ACC much longer. I mean, I think action's coming on that very quick. The talk on our side of the fence in the media world is not FSU versus the ACC. The talk is network versus network. Because the thinking is not if, but when FSU breaks free, and they won't be alone, but when they break free, the question is, where are they going? Are we going to the Big Ten? Going to the SEC? And if that's the case, is it Tony Petitti versus Greg Sankey, or is it Fox versus ESPN? I would lean a lot more towards the latter with help from the former. Movement is imminent on this front. As in, like, before FSU plays another football game this year, I think you'll know something on this front. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but look, if we're talking 2025, like, I think this could happen by 2025. That's 1 year away from happening.
Now, we have been telling you this for over a year. I went back and found our first conference realignment video, and oh, how far we've come since we did that one. And although we've upgraded audio, video, studio since doing that, I will tell you we've been pretty spot on. I won't spend the next 8 minutes doing a victory lap, but you can go back and watch those old videos for yourself. There's a conference realignment playlist, and you can hold my feet to the fire if we missed on anything over the last year. But again, this is what we've been saying. This is what we have always proposed. I always said I thought we'd play the 2024 season in the ACC, thought there was a small chance that we could maybe get out before then, didn't think that was realistic, and that by 2025 we would likely be out. Now, I think right now there's a small chance you could play the 2025 season in the ACC, but then I'll tell you this, by 2026, you're absolutely out. And again, I think the greater chances that you're out by 2025. And Pate seemed to agree with that. Pate seemed to be right in that same thinking, that same line. He said before the Florida State Seminoles play another game. What happens before the Florida State Seminoles play another game? You have the 2025 deadline. That's mid-August. Last year it was August 15th. I think it's the same day this upcoming year. Not sure, though, because of the leap year, if that ends up falling on a weekend. I believe it's right around that August 15th, that 8/15 deadline for when you have to announce whether or not you're going to be in the conference or not. Well, Pate's hearing things from his sources, and we've continued to hear things from our sources, and they seem to match up. The way that he put it is before the next game, which is 2 weeks after that deadline, and the way that we've heard it is by about mid-August, by about the time that the deadline rolls around, expect some movement on this. We've also got a couple of other things to tell you, including what I think most people are missing about this, but I will give a quick shout out to our Patreon and our Discord. I know it's the off season. I know that news is not flowing like an endless supply of recruiting updates, but I will tell you, several of you have asked how you can support, and the best way that you can support is by going to patreon.com/DFNS and get a membership. You can do that for as little as $3 a month. There are memberships that are much higher. It's all in between. It gets you access to our Discord where we talk conference realignment, talk recruiting, and all those things all year long. Even right now in the doldrums of the offseason, late February, we're still doing it. So go check us out, patreon.com/DFNS. Message us with any questions if you have them. Big thing that he mentioned is network versus network. This is not FSU versus the ACC anymore. That part is over. Now, they'll negotiate a settlement. They'll come to a final number. We'll pay whatever that exit fee is, and we'll be gone. But this is no longer about FSU versus the ACC. I thought that was so spot on when he said it. This is between Fox and ESPN, guys. That is absolutely the two powers that are at play here. There's a narrative out there from Gator fans and UGA fans that have latched onto it since the Orange Bowl that the SEC doesn't want FSU. They don't need FSU. And other people will say Florida State's not a fit for the Big Ten. Florida State doesn't fit into that culturally, AAU-wise. They don't fit in from a geographical standpoint. They don't have a home. They're going to wind up in the Big 12 because the SEC doesn't want them. They don't need them. And then they're not a fit for the Big Ten. Both of those are absolute complete malarkey. This is not about what SEC wants. This is not about what the Big Ten wants. This is about what ESPN, the almighty god of Disney, wants. This is about what Fox wants. And those two will be the ones to fight for Florida State. I still tend to think that Florida State ends up in the Big Ten. But I think too many FSU fans are completely closing the doors on the SEC. I know you're bitter about the snub. You're bitter about Georgia. You're bitter about Alabama getting in over you. You're bitter about Texas getting in. I understand all that. You hate ESPN because of Herb Street and all the cowards that couldn't stand on their own 2 feet to tell you why you got left out. I get it. I'm bitter about all that stuff too. I still haven't let it go, if you could tell. I still wear my Herb Street clown shirt, and I plan on wearing it in Dublin as well. But none of that stuff matters. The SEC and ESPN and Fox and the Big Ten, none of that matters at all. It's what the networks want. It's what the Big Ten, it's what Fox wants. It's what the SEC's dad, ESPN, wants. That will determine it. It's a little bit about what Florida State wants, but it's really more so about what those two networks are willing to do and how much they're willing to duke it out over the Seminoles. A lot of people are missing this, though. They think that the lawsuit has to be completed by the time Florida State announces. And I've talked about this just a little bit. I did a full video that I'll link here in just a minute to our national channel. But just to overview this, just to give you a quick snippet, and then I'll send you on your way over to that video if you want to check it out. That could not be further from the truth. We've talked about this, but I've spoken with multiple sources who have confirmed with me, people at Florida State, people within buildings who don't talk about much, but will at least tell you, yeah, this is correct. Florida State can announce that they're leaving at any time. And then what would happen if Florida State had announced that they were leaving before any of this lawsuit stuff, before any of the declarative action, before any of that? They would then work on trying to pay the ACC, trying to figure out what that amount is. Well, they're already in the middle of that now. So they don't have to then start figuring out where they're going to land. They don't have to then start figuring out what that number is going to be. They're already working on that right now. And even what Pate said in that clip, the longer clip that you can go check out on YouTube, he said a lot of it is performative. We've talked about that with Doug Rohan of Rohan Law. A lot of it is not necessarily going to be this big horse and pony show in court. A lot of it's just going to be settled behind closed doors, maybe NDA'd. Maybe you never even find out what that number is. We've heard some rumors about what that may be. We'll talk about it in just a second. But they don't have to finish the lawsuit. They don't have to finish the filing before they announce. And that's why we believe, Pate, myself, others who are covering this, believe that this will be announced before that August deadline. This will be announced so that the Noles can be in another conference in 2025. Where will that be? Remains to be seen. As far as a number goes, I'm hearing around the $200 million mark. It's where I think we end up landing. It's where I think this ends up going. We'll see if it's a bit higher, a bit lower. I think that would make the most sense. It's a little under half of that 571 number. I think that would benefit both the ACC and Florida State. We'll see if the number's ever released or not. talked about the other video. We can explain to you how Florida State could announce before the settlement is done, before the lawsuit is done. You can click the video on the screen right now to check that out. Again, patreon.com/DFNS if you want to support or get more info on your Florida State Seminoles.